The star maps of the Galactic Council showed danger zones in red. Most sectors had small red dots marking asteroid fields or dying stars, but one sector was completely red. Sector 7 Alpha contained a yellow star called Sol, and around it orbited a blue-green planet that nobody was allowed to visit. High Admiral Zephys stood before the massive holographic display in his command center. His four arms moved across the controls as he studied the forbidden sector. The Veltar warrior was 8 feet tall, covered in biomechanical armor that gleamed like black metal. His race had conquered 47 star systems. They were the strongest military force in this part of the galaxy. Admiral, his aide said, walking up to him. The Council has sent another warning about Sector 7 Alpha. They say we must stay away from the planet called Earth. Zephys made a sound like laughing, but deeper and more threatening. The Council is weak. They see danger where we see opportunity. What could a primitive world possibly do to the mighty Veltar? The aide pulled up the official warnings on his tablet. Sir, 3 expeditions have disappeared near that planet. The last transmission from Captain Vexhi's fleet was just screaming. Then nothing. Vexhi was a fool, Zephys said. He waved one of his arms and the display zoomed in on Earth. Look at this world. No energy shields around the planet. No massive defense stations. These humans still use chemical rockets to leave their atmosphere. They are barely more advanced than the primitive species we conquered on Nextor. The automated warning systems kicked in as they looked at Earth's data. A mechanical voice spoke in the common galactic language. Warning. This system contains an apex predator species. All ships must maintain distance of 50 light-years minimum. Approach prohibited by Council Directive 2847. Violation punishable by exile to the dark regions. Zephys turned off the warning with an angry gesture. Apex predators? These humans fight each other with projectile weapons. They have not even learned to harness quantum energy properly. The Council spreads these lies to keep the valuable resources of Earth for themselves. His aide looked nervous. But sir, the warnings come from 17 different species. Even the Hive Queens agree that... The Hive Queens are insects, Zephys interrupted. They fear everything that moves. And the other species? They are jealous of Veltar's strength. They want to stop us from claiming the riches of this untouched world. Zephys walked to the viewing window of his flagship. Outside, the Veltar fleet floated in perfect formation. 12 massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying a small moon. 48 frigates armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. 200,000 Veltar warriors, each one enhanced with computer implants and molecular weapons. No force in the galaxy could stand against them. Prepare the fleet for Operation Harvest, Zephys commanded. We will show the galaxy what happens when they try to keep secrets from the Veltar supremacy. The aide hesitated. Admiral, perhaps we should ask the Council for permission first. The penalties for entering the Forbidden Zone are... Zephys grabbed the smaller alien with 2 of his arms and lifted him off the ground. The Council serves us, not the other way around. We took their precious trade routes. We conquered their strongest allies. Now we will take this mysterious Earth and prove that the Veltar fear nothing. He dropped the aide and activated the fleet communication system. His voice boomed across 200 ships. Warriors of the Supremacy. For too long, the weak Council has told us where we can and cannot go. They claim a primitive world is too dangerous for us to visit. Today we prove them wrong. Today we claim Earth for the glory of the Veltar. The response was immediate. Thousands of warriors roared their approval across the communication channels. Weapon systems powered up. Engines began to warm for the jump to hyperspace. But as the fleet prepared to leave, more warnings came through subspace. The messages arrived in dozens of languages from species across the galaxy. Do not go to Earth. Turn back while you still can. The humans are not what they appear to be. Protect your people. We beg you, Veltar, listen to those who tried before you. Zephys deleted each message without reading it completely. Weakness disgusted him. Fear disgusted him. The Veltar had not become the masters of 47 worlds by listening to cowards. Sir, his navigation officer called out, the hyperspace calculations are complete. We can reach the Sol system in 6 standard days. Then we leave immediately. Zephys ordered. And send a message to the Council. Tell them that when we return, Earth will belong to the Veltar supremacy. The fleet jumped to hyperspace in a flash of blue light. Behind them, automated beacons continued to broadcast their warnings into empty space. As they traveled through hyperspace, Zephys studied everything the Council databases contained about Earth. The information was limited, but what he saw only confirmed his beliefs. The humans were divided into separate nations that often fought each other. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons used chemical explosions and simple projectiles. They had barely begun to explore their own star system. "Look at this," he told his officers, showing them images of human cities. They build straight up into the air instead of underground like intelligent species. They have no protection from orbital bombardment. Their military uses wheeled vehicles that move along the ground. Even the weakest Veltar patrol could conquer their largest army. His weapons officer nodded agreement. "Their space stations are tiny, Admiral. Our smallest frigate carries more firepower than their entire orbital infrastructure. And their population," added the intelligence officer. "Over 7 billion humans crowded onto one small world. They will make excellent slaves once we demonstrate our superiority." Zephys felt satisfaction growing in his chest. Earth would be the greatest conquest in Veltar history. Not only would they gain a rich world full of resources, but they would prove that the Council's warnings were meaningless. Other species would see that the Veltar could go anywhere and take anything they wanted. On the 4th day of their journey, they received one final transmission. It came from an old hive queen whose species had been among the first to encounter humans centuries ago. "Please, Admiral Zephys," the transmission said. "I am old and have seen many wars. I have watched strong species become extinct overnight. The humans seem weak and divided, but this is how they hunt. They appear harmless until it is too late. My hive lost 3 million warriors learning this truth. Do not make the same mistake." Zephys turned off the transmission before it finished. He had heard enough whining from inferior species. "2 more days to Earth," he announced to his fleet. "Prepare all weapons. Ready the invasion troops. The humans will learn to fear the Veltar." Name. But as his ships moved through hyperspace toward the Sol system, long-range sensors were already tracking their approach. On Earth, in command centers buried deep beneath mountains and ocean floors, alarms began to sound. Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force looked at the sensor readings and shook her head sadly. "How many ships?" she asked. 200, ma'am," her aide replied. "Looks like a full battle fleet." Chen sighed. "Send the final warning on all frequencies. Tell them they have one chance to turn around. And if they don't listen?" Chen looked out at the blue sky above Earth through the command center's reinforced windows. Somewhere up there, hidden among the stars and planets, humanity's true defenses waited silently. "Then they'll learn why we put up those warning signs," she said, quietly. "God help them." The Veltar fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Zephys expected to find a quiet solar system with primitive satellites orbiting a backward world. Instead, his sensors immediately detected something that made him pause. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "we're being scanned, multiple sources throughout the system." Zephys looked at the tactical display. Red dots appeared everywhere, around Jupiter near Saturn's moons in the asteroid belt, and in orbit around the blue-green planet called Earth. Hundreds of objects that his computers couldn't identify were pointing sensors directly at his fleet. "How is this possible?" Zephys muttered. "The intelligence report said these humans barely had spaceflight capability. Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from Earth." The main screen activated, showing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. She had short gray hair and cold blue eyes that seemed to look right through Zephys. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered a restricted system despite multiple warnings. This is your final opportunity to leave peacefully. Turn your ships around and go home." Zephys laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Human, you are speaking to High Admiral Zephys of the Veltar Supremacy. We have conquered 47 star systems. Your primitive world will be the 48th. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. You were warned to stay away. Every species in the galaxy tried to tell you. Now you'll learn why. The transmission ended. Zephas stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his weapons officer. Destroy their largest moon. Show these humans what real power looks like. Sir, which weapon should we use? The quantum disruptor. Let them watch their moon. Turn to dust. The flagship's main weapon charged up, building energy that could tear apart the molecular structure of anything it hit. The beam lanced out across space toward Earth's moon. For a moment, Zephas smiled. No species had ever seen their homeworld's moon destroyed and continued to resist. But the beam never reached its target. Something intercepted it halfway there. A field of energy appeared in space, absorbing the quantum disruptor blast completely. The moon continued to orbit Earth as if nothing had happened. Impossible, Zephas whispered. No known technology can stop a quantum disruptor. Admiral, his sensor officer's voice was shaking. I'm detecting energy buildups throughout the system. Whatever they're using to defend themselves, it's bigger than anything in our databases. Before Zephas could respond, space around his fleet erupted in motion. Objects that his sensors had mistaken for asteroids suddenly came to life. What he had thought were natural formations were actually camouflaged weapons platforms. Incoming projectiles, the tactical officer shouted. But these weren't the primitive missiles Zephas expected. The objects moving toward his fleet were traveling at impossible speeds. His computers calculated their velocity and returned numbers that made no sense. Sir, those projectiles are moving at 15% of light speed. That's not possible with chemical propulsion. The first projectile hit the frigate VTS Dominator. The tungsten rod, no bigger than a telephone pole, punched through the ship's quantum shields like they weren't there. It tore through the hull, through the engine room, through the reactor, and out the other side. The frigate exploded in a ball of plasma that lit up the darkness, but the projectile kept going. It hit the cruiser VTS Annihilator next, then the destroyer VTS Subjugator, then finally came to rest buried deep in the hull of a dreadnought. 4 ships destroyed by a single piece of metal. Return fire, Zephas screamed. All weapons, destroy everything. The Veltar fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, molecular disruptors, and gravity bombs filled space with deadly energy. For a moment, Zephas thought they had the advantage. His weapons were the most advanced in the galaxy. Then the humans replied, space filled with projectiles moving at incredible speeds. But these weren't just metal rods. Some were streams of ball bearings that tore through Veltar hulls like cosmic shotgun blasts. Others were asteroids that had been hollowed out and packed with fusion bombs, guided by computer systems more advanced than anything the Veltar possessed. They're using kinetic weapons, his science officer reported in amazement. Pure kinetic energy at relativistic speeds. They've turned simple physics into the most deadly weapons in the galaxy. A new type of weapon appeared on the sensors. Something was pulling at the fabric of space itself near 3 of his frigates. The ships began to stretch and distort as an artificial gravity field tore them apart at the molecular level. They have gravity weapons, the science officer whispered. They're using black holes as ammunition. But what horrified Zephas most wasn't the technology, it was the psychology behind it. The humans weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to send a message. Every weapon they used was designed to be as terrifying as possible. When Veltar warriors tried to board human ships, they found crews who had rigged their own vessels to explode rather than be captured. Human pilots rammed their small fighters into Veltar dreadnoughts while singing something their translators couldn't properly interpret. The communication channels filled with sounds the Veltar had never heard before. Human crews were broadcasting the screams of dying Veltar warriors, mixed with what sounded like primitive war songs and battle cries. The psychological effect was devastating. Veltar soldiers enhanced with fear suppression implants began to panic. Admiral, his communications officer called out, we're losing ships faster than we can count them. The humans are using weapons we've never seen before. They're hacking our systems and turning our own guns against us. On the tactical display, Red dots representing Veltar ships were disappearing one by one. The humans weren't just fighting them. They were hunting them down with systematic precision. Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the TDFS Defiant found his ship surrounded by 5 Veltar frigates. His engines were damaged, his weapons were nearly out of ammunition, and Veltar warriors were cutting through his hull. Rodriguez looked at his crew and made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. "Set the reactor to overload," he ordered calmly. "All hands, it's been an honor serving with you." His communications officer opened a channel to Earth. "Tell my kids Daddy kept the monsters away," Rodriguez said. Then he activated the self-destruct. The explosion vaporized all 5 Veltar frigates and sent a shockwave that damaged 3 more ships. But what shook Zephys to his core wasn't the destruction. It was the fact that the human had smiled as he did it. "These humans are insane," his tactical officer whispered. "They fight like animals backed into a corner." "No," Zephys said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn on him. "They fight like apex predators protecting their territory." On the tactical display, more than half his fleet was gone. The survivors were scattered across the system, being hunted down by human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. His mighty invasion force was being systematically destroyed by a species he had thought was primitive. "Admiral," his aide said, quietly, "perhaps we should consider retreat." Zephys looked at the carnage on his screens. The humans had weapons that defied everything the Veltar knew about physics. They had tactics that turned every piece of space debris into a weapon. They had a psychology that made them prefer death to defeat. But retreat would mean admitting that the mighty Veltar had been beaten by a species that still used chemical rockets. It would mean the end of the Supremacy's reputation as an unstoppable force. "No," Zephys said firmly. "We continue to Earth. Whatever these humans are, they cannot have unlimited resources. We will break through their defenses and claim their world." But even as he gave the order, Zephys felt something he had never experienced before in 4 decades of conquest. For the first time in his life, the High Admiral of the Veltar Supremacy was afraid, and they hadn't even reached Earth yet. The battle moved deeper into the Sol system, and with every passing hour, Admiral Zephys learned horrible new truths about human warfare. The Veltar had fought dozens of species across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared them for this. Most civilized species fought according to established rules. They used energy weapons, deployed defensive shields, and followed predictable tactical patterns. The Veltar had built their military doctrine around these expectations. But humans didn't fight like civilized beings. They fought like the predators they truly were. "Admiral, we're detecting massive movement in the asteroid belt," his sensor officer reported. "It looks like the humans are redirecting asteroids toward our fleet." Zephys watched the tactical display in growing horror. The humans weren't just moving a few small rocks. They were redirecting entire asteroids, some of them several kilometers wide, and accelerating them to incredible speeds using methods his scientists couldn't understand. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Those asteroids mass millions of tons each." His science officer studied the readings with trembling hands. "Sir, they appear to have hollowed out the asteroids and installed fusion drives inside them. But the power requirements should be impossible with their technology level." The first asteroid weapon arrived 20 minutes later. The VTS destroyer tried to evade, but something that massive moving that fast couldn't be avoided. The impact was like watching a moon collide with a ship. The destroyer and 3 nearby frigates simply vanished in a flash of light and debris. But the asteroid wasn't finished. The explosion revealed that it had been packed with fusion warheads. The secondary blast took out 2 more ships and damaged 5 others. "They turned an asteroid into a guided missile," Zephys whispered. "What kind of species does that?" His answer came from an intercepted human transmission. 2 human ships were coordinating an attack on his remaining dreadnoughts, and their casual conversation chilled him to his core. "Ranger 7, this is Ranger 3. We've got 2 big ugly ones heading for Luna. Want to try the new gravity bombs?" "Affirmative, Ranger 3. Let's see if we can make them dance." The humans deployed weapons that Zephys's science teams insisted were theoretical impossibilities. Portable gravity generators created miniature black holes that lasted just long enough to tear Veltar ships apart. The humans would drop one of these weapons near an enemy vessel, watch it get stretched like rubber, then collapse the field and move on to the next target. This is not possible, his chief scientist reported frantically. They're manipulating fundamental forces like toys. Our most advanced research teams haven't even begun to understand gravitational manipulation. But it wasn't just the impossible technology that broke Veltar morale. It was the way humans used it. They didn't just destroy enemy ships. They played with them first. When Veltar warriors tried to board human vessels, they found crews who had prepared surprises that defied military logic. Human ships were rigged with explosive charges in every corridor. Automatic systems fired streams of projectiles through their own hulls to stop boarders. Human defenders used their own atmosphere as a weapon, flooding compartments with poisonous gas while wearing protective gear. Captain Vextal of the VTS Punisher managed to fight his way to the bridge of a human ship called the TDFS Resilient. He expected to find a command crew cowering in fear. Instead, he found 20 humans calmly working at their stations while their ship fell apart around them. "Surrender!" Vextal roared, his translation device making his words understood. "Your ship is lost." The human captain, a gray-haired woman with scars across her face, looked up from her command console and smiled. "You're right. Our ship is lost. But so are you." She pressed a button, and Vexatel realized that the humans had been using their own ship as bait. The Resilient was packed with enough explosives to take out everything within 1,000 kilometers. The human crew had lured 3 Veltar ships close, then triggered a controlled supernova. The last thing Vextal heard was the humans singing something their computers translated as "Amazing Grace." They were singing as they prepared to die. Back on his flagship, Zephys tried to understand what he was seeing. They're using their own ships as weapons. They're sacrificing themselves deliberately. "It's worse than that, sir," his intelligence officer reported. "We've been monitoring their communications. These aren't desperate last stands. This is coordinated strategy. They call it acceptable losses. And they've calculated exactly how many of their own people they're willing to sacrifice to stop us." The tactical display showed the horrible mathematics of human warfare. For every Veltar ship destroyed, the humans were willing to lose 2 of their own. But human ships were smaller and had smaller crews. The exchange rate was devastating for the Veltar. "They're treating this like a business transaction," Zephys said in amazement. "They've decided that stopping us is worth a specific price in human lives, and they're paying it without hesitation." More intercepted transmissions revealed the true scope of human coordination. Unlike the Veltar, who fought as a single unified force, humans seemed to come from different nations and organizations. But instead of weakening them, this diversity made them stronger. "Attention all vessels, this is Admiral Chen. Russian kinetic platforms are reporting ammunition low. Japanese quantum computers are redirecting targeting to European laser batteries. Australian crews are standing by for ramming actions." Zephys realized that the entire human species had united against his invasion. Every nation, every organization, every individual human had become part of a single war machine focused on one goal: stopping the Veltar. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving tactical data from our remaining ships. The humans aren't just fighting us, they're studying us. Every time we use a weapon, they adapt. Every time we try a new tactic, they counter it within minutes." The humans had turned the battle into a laboratory. They were learning from every engagement, sharing information instantly across their entire fleet, and developing countermeasures in real time. When the Veltar used quantum disruptors, the humans deployed quantum field generators. When Veltar ships tried to use stealth technology, human sensors adapted to new detection methods. But the most terrifying aspect of human warfare wasn't their technology or tactics. It was their psychology. Intercepted human communications revealed that they weren't fighting with the cold efficiency of a military machine. They were fighting with the passionate fury of a species defending its young. "This is Sergeant Williams in Delta Company. My daughter asked me to bring her back a star from space. I'm going to rip one off that big ship over there." Pilot Chen here. "My grandmother survived the Beijing bombing in the last war," she told me never to let anyone hurt our family again. Today, humanity is my family. Engineering Chief Rodriguez reporting. My nephew wants to be an astronaut when he grows up. These aliens are not going to take his future away. Every human seemed to have personal reasons for fighting that went beyond military duty. They fought for their children, their families, their hopes for the future. This made them unpredictable and absolutely ruthless. When ammunition ran low, human crews used pieces of their own ships as projectiles. When weapons failed, they rammed enemy vessels while broadcasting messages to their families. When all seemed lost, they smiled and sang and died in ways that traumatized Veltar warriors, who had conquered dozens of worlds. Admiral, his aide said quietly, we've lost 70% of the fleet. The surviving ships are scattered across the system. Our warriors are requesting permission to retreat. Zephys looked at the tactical display, red dots representing his. Ships were disappearing faster than his computers could track. The humans had weapons that violated known physics, tactics that defied military logic, and a psychology that turned every individual into a willing sacrifice for the whole. But retreat was still impossible. The Veltar supremacy's reputation depended on victory. If word spread that humans had defeated them, every species in the galaxy would see the Veltar as weak. Their empire would collapse within years. We continue to Earth, Zephys ordered. Ready the planet-killer weapons. If we cannot conquer this world, we will destroy it completely. But even as he gave the order, Zephys felt a cold certainty growing in his chest. He had thought he was fighting primitive humans with simple technology. Instead, he had discovered the most dangerous military force in the galaxy, a species that had spent centuries preparing for exactly this type of invasion. The humans hadn't just built weapons, they had built a philosophy of warfare that turned every disadvantage into an advantage, every defeat into a victory, and every death into inspiration for the survivors. And he was about to learn what they had prepared for his final, desperate gambit. As the surviving Veltar ships limped toward Earth, Admiral Zephys discovered that everything he thought he knew about the human homeworld was wrong. The planet that had seemed defenseless from a distance was actually the most heavily fortified world in galactic history. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, voice shaking. You need to see this. The moon. It's not natural. The tactical display zoomed in on Earth's satellite. What had appeared to be a normal rocky moon was revealing its true nature as the Veltar fleet approached. Massive sections of the lunar surface were sliding away, revealing weapons that made Zephys's blood run cold. Those are dark matter cannons, his science officer whispered. Concentrated dark matter beams. They could erase matter at the quantum level. The moon opened fire. Beams of pure nothingness lanced out from hidden weapons bays, and wherever they touched Veltar ships, those ships simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but completely removed from reality, as if they had never been built. The frigate VTS Vengeance took a direct hit from a dark matter beam. For a split second, the ship was there. Then it wasn't. The space where it had been floating was completely empty, without even debris to mark its passing. How many weapons are on that moon? Zephys demanded. His tactical computer ran calculations and returned numbers that seemed impossible. Sir, the entire moon appears to be hollow. It's not a natural satellite. It's a weapons platform the size of a small world. But Luna Base was just the beginning. As the Veltar fleet moved closer to Earth, the planet revealed defense systems that defied every assumption about human technology. Massive structures rose from Earth's surface like metal mountains. Space elevators, his computer identified them. But these weren't simple transportation systems. They were launch tubes for weapons that turned the planet itself into a gun. Incoming projectiles from the surface, the sensor officer reported. Thousands of them. Earth's space elevators fired streams of projectiles in continuous volleys. Metal rods, fusion warheads, and stranger weapons rose from the planet's surface at impossible speeds. The electromagnetic launch systems accelerated them to significant fractions of light speed before they even left the atmosphere. They've turned their entire planet into a fortress, Zephys realized. Every city, every installation, every piece of infrastructure is part of their defense network. Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. "This is your last warning, Admiral Zephys. You've seen what we can do with improvised weapons at the edge of our system. Now you're approaching our real defenses. Turn back or face the consequences." Zephys opened a channel to reply. "Human, you cannot possibly defend an entire planet against planet-killer weapons. We have antimatter bombs that can crack worlds in half." "We know," Chen replied calmly. "We've been preparing for that possibility for 300 years. The transmission cut off, and suddenly Zephys understood the true horror of his situation. The humans hadn't just built weapons to fight invaders. They had studied every recorded alien invasion in galactic history and prepared specific countermeasures for each type of attack. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system." "Whatever. The humans are preparing. It's drawing power from their star itself." Solar focusing arrays became visible as they unfolded from hidden positions around the inner planets. Mirrors the size of continents began directing the sun's energy into coherent beams. The humans had weaponized their own star. "They can channel the sun's output into directed energy weapons," the science officer reported in amazement. "The power levels are beyond anything we've ever recorded." But it wasn't just the impossible technology that broke Zephys's remaining confidence. It was the realization that humanity had been waiting for this exact scenario. Earth's defense network wasn't hastily assembled. It was the product of centuries of planning, preparation, and industrial effort. Every piece of technology, every defensive position, every tactical doctrine had been designed with one purpose: stopping exactly the kind of invasion Zephys was attempting. "They know about our quantum processors," his technology specialist reported. "They've deployed electromagnetic pulse weapons specifically designed to disrupt our neural implants. They know about our molecular disruptors and have developed quantum field generators to neutralize them. They know about our stealth technology and have sensors that can detect us anyway." The humans had studied the Veltar military doctrine in detail. Every weapon, every tactic, every technological advantage the Veltar possessed had a specific human countermeasure waiting for it. "How is this possible?" Zephys demanded. "We've never fought humans before. How could they know so much about our capabilities?" His intelligence officer pulled up intercepted human data files. "Sir, they've been studying every species in the galaxy. They have detailed analyses of 43 different military doctrines, including ours. They've war-gamed every possible invasion scenario and prepared responses for each one." "Admiral," Chen's voice returned to the communication system, but this time she wasn't speaking to Zephys. She was coordinating the final phase of Earth's defense, and what she revealed made Zephys realize the true scale of human preparation. "All defense sectors, this is command. The enemy is approaching phase line Alpha. Initiate Protocol 7. Repeat, initiate Protocol 7. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations activated. The planet's magnetic field began to shift and change, forming a containment system that trapped Veltar ships like insects in amber. The humans had weaponized the very forces that protected their world from cosmic radiation. "They're using their magnetic field as a cage," the navigation officer reported. "Our ships can't maneuver properly. Something is interfering with our propulsion systems." Zephys watched his remaining vessels struggle against invisible forces. The humans had turned their planet's natural defenses into weapons that could disable ships without firing a shot. But the most terrifying revelation came when Chen revealed humanity's ultimate deterrent. "Admiral Zephys," her voice was calm and professional, "you should know that Earth's sun is currently targeted by 27 solar manipulation devices. If our planet falls, we have the ability to trigger a controlled nova that will sterilize this entire system. We call it the Samson Protocol." Zephys felt something cold and sharp in his chest. "You would destroy your own world to stop us?" "We would destroy everything within 50 light-years to stop you," Chen replied. "And we've made sure every species in the galaxy knows it. Attack Earth, and we all die together. That's the price of threatening humanity's home." The tactical display showed the horrible truth. The humans hadn't just prepared to defend Earth. They had prepared to turn their entire solar system into a weapon that would eliminate any force threatening them, even if it meant their own extinction. "They're not just defending their planet," his aide whispered. They're willing to commit species suicide rather than be conquered. Zephas realized that he wasn't fighting a normal military force. He was fighting a species that had decided their freedom was worth any price, including their own lives. The humans would rather die as free beings than live as slaves. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we have 3 ships left operational. The rest of the fleet is gone." 3 ships. From 200 that had entered the system. The mighty Veltar supremacy had been reduced to a handful of survivors by a species they had thought was primitive. "We still have the planet-killer weapons," Zephas said desperately. "We can destroy their world and claim victory through genocide." But even as he spoke, Zephas knew it was too late. The humans had shown him the truth. They weren't a primitive species that could be conquered through superior firepower. They were the galaxy's apex predators, and they had been waiting patiently for someone foolish enough to test them. Earth hung before them like a blue-green jewel, beautiful and deadly. Behind it, the sun burned with the promise of controlled destruction. Around it, weapons platforms waited silently for the command to end everything. Zephas had come to conquer a backward world. Instead, he had found the most dangerous military force in the galaxy, and it was about to teach him the final lesson in the consequences of arrogance. Admiral Zephas stood in the ruins of his command bridge, surrounded by sparking equipment and the bodies of his crew. 3 ships remained from his mighty fleet of 200. The humans had systematically destroyed everything else with weapons that violated the laws of physics and tactics that defied military logic. But Zephas still had one final card to play. Hidden in the cargo holds of his remaining ships were 12 antimatter bombs, each one capable of cracking a planet in half. If he couldn't conquer Earth, he would destroy it and claim victory through genocide. "Prepare the planet-killer weapons," he ordered his surviving crew. "Launch them at maximum velocity toward the human world. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who resist the Veltar." His weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, if we destroy Earth, we'll have nothing to show for this campaign except dead worlds." "Then we'll have a message," Zephas snarled. "No species defies the Veltar and survives. Better a dead world than a living one that thinks it defeated us." The antimatter bombs launched from his ships like dark meteors, accelerating toward Earth at tremendous speed. Each weapon carried enough destructive force to turn continents into glass and boil oceans into steam. Zephas felt grim satisfaction as he watched them streak toward the blue-green planet. But his satisfaction lasted exactly 47 seconds. Earth's response to the planet-killer weapons revealed the final, most terrifying aspect of human nature. When faced with complete extinction, humans didn't despair or surrender. They adapted. Admiral Chen's voice crackled across all communication frequencies, calm and professional, despite the apocalyptic weapons heading toward her world. "All civilian populations, this is Defense Command. We have incoming planet killers. Evacuation protocols are in effect. Military personnel, prepare for interception operations." Across Earth's surface, massive dome structures rose from hidden underground positions. Entire cities disappeared beneath protective shields that could withstand the heat of stars. The humans had prepared for this exact scenario. But the domes weren't their real defense against the antimatter bombs. That came from an entirely different direction. "Launch the volunteers," Chen ordered. From bases on Earth, Luna, and Mars, small, one-person ships began launching toward the incoming weapons. These weren't military vessels armed with advanced weapons. They were simple interceptors with just enough fuel to reach the antimatter bombs and basic communication equipment. Zephas watched in growing horror as he realized what the humans were doing. "They're sending pilots to ram our weapons. They're using manned spacecraft as interceptors." "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the interceptor pilots." The voice that came through the speakers belonged to a young human male, calm and determined despite flying toward certain death. "This is Lieutenant Jake Morrison in Interceptor 7. I can see the big ugly bomb heading for New York. That's where my sister lives." "Not today, alien, not today." The interceptor ship, barely larger than a fighter craft, rammed into the antimatter bomb at tremendous speed. The collision triggered a controlled detonation far from Earth, lighting up space like a small sun. "Lieutenant," Morrison and his ship vanished in the explosion, but his sacrifice had saved millions of lives. More voices joined the communications channels as other interceptor pilots approached their targets. "This is Captain Sarah Kim. My parents live in Seoul. See you in the next life, aliens. Pilot Chen here. My daughter just started school yesterday. She's going to get the chance to graduate. This is Commander Rodriguez. For Earth, for humanity, for the future." One by one, human pilots flew their ships into antimatter bombs, triggering controlled detonations that lit up the solar system. Each pilot knew they wouldn't survive, yet hundreds volunteered. Their final transmissions revealed the psychology that made humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They weren't just fighting for military victory. They were fighting for their families, their children, their dreams of the future. Every pilot had personal reasons that made death preferable to defeat. "How many volunteers did they have?" Zephys whispered, watching the last antimatter bomb destroyed by a pilot who sang something called Country Roads as he died. His intelligence officer checked the intercepted communications. "Sir, they had over 3,000 volunteers for 12 interception missions. They had to turn people away. 3,000 humans willing to die to save their world." The mighty Veltar, enhanced with fear suppression technology and trained from birth for war, could barely comprehend such dedication. But the humans weren't finished. With the planet killer threat neutralized, they turned their attention to Zephys's remaining ships. The pursuit craft that emerged from Earth weren't massive dreadnoughts or heavily armed cruisers. They were small, fast vessels designed for one purpose: hunting down survivors. "They're not trying to capture us," his tactical officer reported. "They're hunting us for sport." The human pursuit ships moved like pack hunters, coordinating their attacks with cold precision. They disabled Zephys's engines first, then his weapons, then his life support systems. They wanted him alive. "Admiral," his aide said quietly, "they're demanding our surrender. They want to put us on trial." Zephys looked at the tactical display showing his two remaining ships, crippled and surrounded by human vessels. The mighty Veltar supremacy had been reduced to war criminals awaiting judgment. "I am High Admiral Zephys of the Veltar supremacy," he broadcast on all frequencies. "I do not surrender to primitives." Admiral Chen's response came immediately. "You're not surrendering to primitives, Admiral. You're surrendering to the species that just exterminated your entire invasion force with minimal losses. Your choice is simple. Surrender now or we'll take you by force." The boarding parties that cut through his hull weren't the savage barbarians Zephys expected. They were professional soldiers wearing advanced armor and carrying weapons that made Veltar technology look primitive. They moved with the precision of a species that had been preparing for this moment for centuries. Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Marines removed her helmet as she entered Zephys's command center. Her face was young, but her eyes held the cold determination of a born predator. "Admiral Zephys," she said politely, "you're under arrest for crimes against humanity and violations of galactic law. You have the right to remain silent, though I doubt you'll use it." Zephys was transported to Luna Base for trial. The courtroom was filled with representatives from species across the galaxy, all of them watching to see what humanity would do with their defeated enemy. Admiral Chen served as both prosecutor and judge. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of absolute authority. "Admiral Zephys, you were warned by 43 different species to stay away from Earth. You ignored those warnings and brought a fleet of 200 ships to conquer our world. Your actions resulted in the deaths of 200,000 Veltar personnel and 50,000 human defenders." Zephys stood in shackles, his biomechanical armor removed and his implants disabled. For the first time in his life, he looked small and powerless. "I was following the military doctrine of the Veltar supremacy," he said. "We are conquerors. It is our nature." "Your nature," Chen replied coldly, "brought about the extinction of your species." She activated a holographic display showing the Veltar homeworld. 3 hours ago, your government received a complete recording of this battle, along with detailed technical specifications of human weapons. The message we sent was simple. Your fleet is gone, your admiral is captured, your supremacy is ended. The hologram showed Veltar cities in chaos as the news spread. Government buildings burned. Military installations were abandoned. Civilian populations fled in panic as they realized their invincible military had been completely destroyed by a single human world. The Veltar supremacy collapsed within hours of receiving our message, Chen continued. Your subject species have rebelled. Your military has disbanded, your empire is gone, all because you were too arrogant to listen to warnings. Zephas felt something break inside his chest. His species, his empire, his entire way of life had been destroyed not by military conquest, but by the simple demonstration that the Veltar were not invincible. What will you do with me? He asked quietly. Chen considered for a moment. You'll spend the rest of your life in a comfortable prison, Admiral. We're not monsters. But you'll also serve as a living reminder of what happens when someone ignores our warnings. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species that had ever considered challenging humanity watched as the mighty Veltar Empire collapsed, overnight. The message was clear. The warnings around Earth weren't suggestions. They were promises. 6 months later, new warning beacons were placed around the Sol system. The message was updated and broadcast in 67 languages. This system is defended by humanity. They offered mercy once. They will not offer it again. The Veltar tested them and achieved extinction. Turn back now, or join them in the history books. In the years that followed, no species ever again tested Earth's defenses. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The warnings weren't there to protect humans from alien invaders. They were there to protect the galaxy from humanity. Admiral Zephas spent his remaining years in a cell on Luna Base, looking up at the blue-green world that had destroyed his empire. Sometimes, late at night, he could hear human children laughing in the corridors above his prison. They were the children of the pilots who had died stopping his planet-killer weapons. Children who would grow up free because their parents had been willing to pay any price to stop him. And in those moments, Zephas finally understood what the galaxy had tried to warn him about. Humans weren't just another species to be conquered. They were the guardians of their own future, and they would destroy anyone who tried to take that future away. The warnings had been real, the consequences had been absolute, and the price of arrogance had been extinction. Commander Allison Pierce stood at the viewport of the shuttle as it approached the massive space station. The structure was beautiful, with gleaming metal spires that reached out like the petals of a flower. Floating in the darkness of space, Harmony Station served as the heart of the Galactic Assembly. Today would mark the first official human delegation to this gathering of alien species. Quite a sight, isn't it? Said Colonel Eric Mills as he joined her at the window. It's hard to believe we're really here, Allison replied. Her hand instinctively checked the positioning of her uniform. After 20 years in Earth's military forces, old habits died hard. 37 different alien species waiting to meet us. And not one of them from a world like ours, Eric added. He had studied the preliminary information sent by the Assembly. Most evolved on what they call Class 3 to 5 worlds. While Earth is a Class 12 death world, Allison said with a small smile, I wonder if they know what that means yet. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Ambassador John Murphy joined them, straightening his tie nervously. Remember the diplomatic briefing, everyone. We need to make a good first impression. Allison nodded to her security team. 6 men and women, all veterans like herself, dressed in formal uniforms with minimal weapons out of respect for assembly protocols. Security Officer Sam Howard stood closest to her, his eyes constantly scanning. Let's go meet the neighbors, Allison said. The airlock doors slid open to reveal a large reception area. The humans paused for a moment, taking in the sight of the assembled aliens. Some were tall and slender with multiple limbs. Others were short and stocky. Colors ranged from deep blues to pale yellows. What struck Allison most was how fragile many of them looked. A blue-skinned alien with 4 arms stepped forward. Welcome to Harmony Station. I am High Coordinator Zilix of the Galactic Assembly. We are pleased to welcome the representatives of Earth. Ambassador Murphy stepped forward to handle the formal greetings. Allison observed the room, noting the positions of each alien delegation. Her attention was drawn to a group standing apart from the others. They were taller than humans, with gray skin and bony ridges along their faces. Their eyes tracked the humans with obvious disdain. "The Vraxians," Eric whispered beside her. "Military focus. Think themselves the supreme warriors of the galaxy." "They don't look impressed," Allison noted. "From what I've read, they rarely are." The initial greetings completed, the human delegation was invited to a formal reception. As they walked through the station, Allison noticed how many of the aliens moved with careful, measured steps. The station's gravity was set lower than Earth. Standard, yet many species still seemed to find it challenging. During the reception, Allison found herself approached by a small, elderly-looking alien with translucent skin that revealed multiple organs working beneath. "I am Elder Keth of the Zenth," the alien said through a translator device. "We are most curious about humans. Your biological readings are unusual." "In what way?" Allison asked politely. "Your bone density, muscle mass, cardiovascular system. They suggest evolution under extreme conditions. Our scientists were surprised a species could evolve intelligence while devoting so many resources to physical development." Before Allison could respond, a harsh voice interrupted. "Why does the assembly waste time with primitives?" A Vraxian warrior had approached, towering over Keth. "These humans have barely left their planet." "Yet here we are," Allison replied calmly. The Vraxian looked down at her. "I am Supreme Commander Gorth of the Vraxian Defense Fleet. Our species has conquered stars while yours was discovering fire." "Different paths, same destination," Allison said with a diplomatic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your species seems remarkably physical," Gorth said, as if it were an insult. "Our intelligence reports suggest humans rely on brute force, rather than technology." Ambassador Murphy quickly joined the conversation, attempting to smooth things over. "We have much to learn from each other. Earth may be younger in space travel, but we bring unique perspectives." The tension was interrupted when a server carrying drinks stumbled nearby. The tray of glasses began to fall. Without thinking, Howard moved with remarkable speed, catching the tray before it hit the ground. The movement was so quick and fluid that a hush fell over the nearby aliens. "Good catch," Allison said casually, but she noticed the stunned looks from the alien delegates. "Such reflexes," Elder Keth whispered, "and in this gravity." Later, as the reception continued, a minor incident occurred near the entrance. Two Vraxian guards blocked Sam Howard as he returned from a security sweep. "This area is restricted," one guard said, pushing against Sam's chest. Sam didn't budge. The Vraxian frowned and pushed harder. To his surprise, the human remained firmly planted, despite the Vraxian's greater height. "I'm part of the Earth security detail," Sam explained calmly. "Ambassador Murphy is expecting me." The second Vraxian grabbed Sam's arm, intending to remove him forcefully. What happened next caused murmurs throughout the reception hall. Sam simply twisted his arm free with such ease that the Vraxian lost balance. Sam caught the alien before he fell, steadying him with what appeared to be minimal effort. "No harm intended," Sam said, releasing the guard. The Vraxians backed away, confusion evident in their expressions. Allison approached quickly. "Is there a problem here?" she asked. "No problem, Commander," Sam replied. "Just a misunderstanding." As the reception wound down, Elder Keth sought out Allison again. "Commander Pierce, I feel I should warn you. What we witnessed today, it will cause talk. The incident with my security officer? He meant no disrespect." "It is not about respect," Keth said softly. "It is about fear. Most species here have evolved for millions of years in safe environments. Their bodies are adapted for thought for technology. Yours," Keth paused, "yours are adapted for survival under constant threat. Earth has its challenges," Allison admitted. "What you call challenges would kill most species in the assembly. A Class 12 death world shapes its children harshly." Keth's voice grew even quieter. "Some will see you as diplomats, Others will see you as warriors unlike any they have encountered before. As the human delegation returned to their shuttle, Eric fell into step beside Allison. "Interesting first day," he said. "What do you think?" Allison looked back at the assembled aliens, watching them depart. "I think we have a lot to learn about each other, and I think some of them are already afraid of us." "Afraid we barely did anything." "Sometimes," Allison said, "you don't need to do much to frighten people. Sometimes just being what you are is enough." The shuttle detached from Harmony Station, carrying the humans back to their ship. Behind them, the representatives of 37 alien species began urgent discussions about the newcomers from a world they called a death world, and what their arrival might mean for the galaxy. 6 months had passed since humanity's first meeting with the Galactic Assembly. On the border planet Nex 7, Major Kate Phillips watched the twin suns set through the dusty air. This small, rocky world sat at the edge of assembly space, right next to Corthan Empire territory. Kate didn't like the setup. The diplomatic compound had too many entry points and not enough cover. "Perimeter check complete, Major," said Sergeant Daniel Wright as he approached. Dust covered his uniform and sweat ran down his face. The planet's higher-than-Earth gravity didn't bother the human security team, but the diplomats from various assembly species moved slowly and carefully here. "Anything unusual?" Kate asked, her eyes still scanning the horizon. "The usual. Local, wildlife setting off sensors. The Jexians are complaining about the heat again." Daniel shrugged. "No sign of Corthan activity." Kate nodded. Their mission was straightforward: protect the assembly diplomats during peace talks with the Corthan Empire. The Corthans were an aggressive species that had never encountered humans before. According to Assembly intelligence, they had been expanding their territory for decades. "The diplomats are starting another session," Kate said. "Double the guards at the main entrance." Inside the compound, representatives from 7 assembly species sat across from the Corthan delegation. Ambassador Lorax of the Pelian species was leading the assembly team. The humans stood quietly along the walls watching. Kate noticed how the Corthans kept looking at the human guards. The aliens had thick, armored skin that looked like rock, with small eyes and strong limbs. They appeared much stronger than the assembly representatives, and they knew it, but they seemed uncertain about the humans. One Corthan leaned toward another and spoke quietly. Kate's translator picked up the words. "These new creatures, what are they?" "Assembly calls them humans. From a distant system. They look weak. Soft skin, thin limbs." Kate kept her face neutral, but she smiled inside. The Corthans had no idea what humans were capable of. She hoped they never had to find out. The peace talks ended for the day with little progress. Night fell on Nex 7 and most of the compound went to sleep. Kate ordered her team to rotate shifts. She had just dozed off when the alarms blared. "Major Phillips! Corthan forces breaching the north wall." Daniel's voice came through her communicator. Kate was on her feet instantly, grabbing her sidearm. "How many?" "At least 20. They're after the diplomats." Kate raced through the corridors. "All security teams protect the diplomatic quarters. Move all diplomats to the safe room." She rounded a corner and saw 3 Corthans breaking through. A door. Without hesitation, Kate fired warning shots over their heads. "Assembly diplomatic compound, stand down immediately." The Corthans turned, surprised to see a single human confronting them. The largest one laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "One soft creature against 3 warriors? Step aside or die." Kate didn't waste time talking. When the first Corthan charged, she sidestepped with speed that seemed to shock the alien. Her combat training took over. Earth's higher gravity had given her muscles and reflexes the Corthan wasn't prepared for. She struck at vulnerable points: joints, eyes, throat. The Corthan fell back, stunned both by the pain and by how quickly this small creature had moved. The other 2 attacked together. Kate ducked under a massive swing and used the Corthan's momentum to throw him into his companion. Both crashed into the wall. Kate didn't let up. She kept moving, striking, dodging. The Corthans couldn't land a solid hit on her. Down the hall, Daniel Wright faced his own battle. 4 Korthans had cornered a group of Jexian diplomats. The Jexians were shaking with fear, their thin bodies not built for combat. "Behind me now," Daniel ordered the diplomats. He placed himself between them and the Korthans. One Korthan stepped forward. "Move aside, we only want the diplomats." Daniel stood his ground. "That's not happening." What followed amazed the watching Jexians. The human moved with incredible speed and precision. When hit, he seemed to absorb blows that would cripple most species. His return strikes found weak points in the Korthans' natural armor that they didn't even know they had. And most shocking of all, the human didn't stop. Cuts on his face, a possible broken rib. None of it slowed him down. Throughout the compound, similar scenes played out. The small human security team held off the Korthan raiders through superior tactics, speed, and a shocking ability to endure pain. The assembly diplomats watched in disbelief as beings they had considered physically unimpressive demonstrated combat abilities none of their species possessed. After 20 minutes of fighting, the compound's communication system came to life. "Attention all personnel. Earth Alliance vessel approaching. Korthan forces are retreating. Maintain defensive positions." Kate regrouped with her team in the central chamber. Blood ran from a cut above her eye, but she ignored it. "Status report. All diplomats accounted for," Daniel replied. His uniform was torn and his breathing heavy. 2 of our team injured, nothing serious. At least 6 Korthans down, the rest pulling back. Ambassador Lorax approached Kate, his large eyes wide with shock. "Major Phillips, what we just witnessed, it was remarkable." "Just doing our job, Ambassador." "No, you don't understand. Most species would have fallen or fled. Your people, the way you fight, it's unlike anything in known space." Before Kate could respond, the building shook slightly as a ship landed outside. The doors opened to reveal Admiral Greg Foster of the Earth Alliance Navy, leading a team of Marines. "Major Phillips," the Admiral greeted her. "Looks like you had some excitement." "Korthan raiding party, sir, we handled it." The Admiral nodded, noting the injured humans still standing at their posts, the downed Korthans being secured, and the amazed expressions of the assembly diplomats. "The Earth Council sent us when we got word of increased Korthan activity in this sector," Admiral Foster explained to the diplomats. "We'll provide additional security until the peace talks conclude." Ambassador Lorax stepped forward. "Admiral, we are grateful. What your people did today, many of us wouldn't have survived without them." Later, as medical teams treated the injured, Kate overheard 2 Pelian diplomats talking. "Did you see how they fought? How they kept going despite injuries? It's because of where they come from, their world. They call it Earth. The Assembly classifies it as a death world." "A death world? No wonder they're so formidable." Kate smiled slightly as she let a medic clean the cut on her forehead. The Korthans had made a serious mistake today. They had assumed humans were like other species they had encountered. They hadn't realized they were facing Deathworlders, beings evolved on a planet that had tried to kill their ancestors every day for millions of years. As news of the incident spread across Assembly communication channels, the term Deathworlder began to appear alongside mentions of humans. The galaxy was beginning to understand exactly what it meant when humans stepped onto a battlefield. 1 year had passed since humans first met the Galactic Assembly. Lieutenant Paul Carter stood in the center of the Vraxian battle arena on Vrax Prime, the homeworld of the self-proclaimed greatest warriors in the galaxy. The arena was a massive bowl carved from black stone with high walls and seating for thousands. Today, every seat was filled with Vraxians and representatives from other assembly species. Paul took slow, deep breaths. The gravity here was lighter than Earth's, which gave him an advantage, but he wasn't overconfident. The Vraxians had challenged humanity to prove their worth in ritual combat, and the assembly was watching. From a viewing box high above the arena, Dr. Linda Martinez observed with Ambassador John Murphy and several alien dignitaries. Linda was a human xenobiologist, studying the biological differences between species. "Your warrior looks small compared to Vraxian fighters," said Assembly Representative Zilix, the blue-skinned alien who had first welcomed humans to Harmony Station. Most assembly members have placed bets against him. Size isn't everything, Linda replied with a small smile. Humans have some unique features. In the arena, a large door opened. A Vraxian fighter emerged, nearly 7 feet tall with gray skin and heavy muscles. The crowd roared. First challenger, Crusade, veteran of 50 arena victories, announced a bow. Voice over the speakers, Paul sized up his opponent. The Vraxian carried a staff weapon and wore minimal armor. Paul had only his training uniform and his bare hands, as the rules required. Begin, shouted the arena master. Crusade charged forward, swinging his staff at Paul's head. To the crowd's surprise, Paul didn't try to block or dodge backward. Instead, he moved toward the attack, inside the weapon's range. The staff passed over his ducking head, and Paul struck the Vraxian's midsection with a quick combination of punches. Crusade grunted in surprise, swinging his weapon down. Paul caught the staff, using the Vraxian's momentum to pull him off balance. Then he swept Crusade's legs out. From under him, the Vraxian crashed to the ground with a thud that echoed through the arena. The crowd fell silent. Crusade was known for his strength and skill, yet this small human had put him down in seconds. Human fighting techniques focus on using an opponent's strength against them, Linda explained to the watching aliens. We evolved as persistence hunters, not just brute force fighters. Crusade rose to his feet, now wary. He circled Paul carefully. This time when he attacked, he was more controlled. The two fighters exchanged blows, testing each other. Despite the Vraxian's greater size and reach, Paul moved with a speed and precision that kept him in the fight. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The Vraxian began to breathe heavily, while Paul maintained a steady rhythm. Sweat covered his body, but his movements stayed sharp and controlled. Notice the difference in stamina, Linda pointed out. Human cardiovascular systems evolved for endurance. Our ancestors would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Finally, Paul saw his opening. As Crusade made a powerful but increasingly slow attack, Paul slipped past the staff and delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster in the Vraxian's neck. Crusade froze for a split second and Paul swept his legs again. This time when the Vraxian fell, Paul followed him down and applied a hold that left Crusade unable to move. After struggling briefly, Crusade tapped the ground 3 times, signaling surrender. The arena was completely silent for several heartbeats. Then scattered applause broke out, growing louder as the aliens processed what they had seen. "Victory to the human," announced the arena master, surprise evident in his voice. Paul helped Crusade to his feet and bowed respectfully. The Vraxian looked confused but returned the gesture. "Most impressive," said Zilix, "but surely this was luck." "Watch and see," Linda replied. Over the next 3 hours, Paul faced 4 more opponents. Each was stronger, faster, or more skilled than the last. By the 4th match, Paul was sporting cuts on his face and arms. His movements were slower, but his eyes remained focused. When his opponent landed a heavy blow to Paul's ribs, a collective gasp went through the crowd. Many expected the human to yield. Instead, something remarkable happened. Paul's breathing changed, his posture straightened, his eyes became more alert. "What is happening?" asked one of the alien observers. He was clearly injured. "Adrenaline." "Response," Linda explained. "When humans are injured or in danger, our bodies release chemicals that temporarily block pain, increase strength, and sharpen reflexes. It's a survival mechanism from our evolution on a dangerous world." Paul fought back with renewed energy, eventually securing another victory. As medical staff checked his injuries between matches, the arena buzzed with excited conversation. "Final challenger," the arena master announced. "Gorth, Supreme Commander of the Vraxian Defense Fleet, undefeated in 300 battles." The crowd roared as Gorth entered the arena. He was the same Vraxian who had insulted humans during their first meeting at Harmony Station. He looked down at Paul with disdain. "Time to show what a real warrior can do," Gorth said. Paul nodded respectfully but said nothing. He was tired. His ribs hurt with every breath, but he stood ready. The fight that followed would be talked about for years throughout the assembly. Gorth was truly skilled, combining strength with technique developed over centuries of Vraxian warrior tradition. He landed several powerful blows that would have incapacitated fighters from most species. But Paul stayed on his feet. When he was knocked down, he got back up. When Gorth drew blood, Paul wiped it away and continued. The human's endurance seemed impossible to the watching aliens. How can he continue? Asked Zilix in amazement. His body must be in extreme pain. Humans can push through pain in ways other species often can't, Linda said. On Earth we have athletes who run over 26 miles without stopping, climb mountains without oxygen, swim in nearly freezing water. Pain is information to us, not always a command to stop. As the fight passed 30 minutes, Gorth began to slow. His powerful blows became less frequent. Paul, despite his injuries, maintained his focus. He waited for his moment. When it came, he struck with everything he had left. A combination of blows, each precisely targeted at vulnerable points in Vraxian physiology that Linda had identified in her research. Gorth staggered, then fell to one knee. Paul moved behind him with surprising speed and applied pressure to key nerve points. The supreme commander of the Vraxian fleet tapped out. The arena erupted in chaos. Many aliens jumped to their feet, shouting in disbelief. The Vraxians themselves sat in stunned silence. As medical staff helped Paul from the arena, he passed veteran Vraxian warriors watching from the entrance tunnel. Their expressions had changed from disdain to something new, respect mixed with caution. The Death Worlder survived, one Vraxian whispered to another. All 5 challenges. Not just survived, the other replied, watching Paul closely. He never even used his full strength. I've studied their world. Earth's gravity is much stronger than ours. This human was holding back. In the medical bay afterward, Ambassador Murphy congratulated Paul as doctors treated his injuries. You've done humanity proud today, Lieutenant. Just doing my job, sir, Paul said through swollen lips. Did it help our standing with the assembly? Murphy glanced at the Vraxian officials conferring in the corner, looking at Paul with new eyes. Oh yes, the ambassador said. I think they're beginning to understand what it means when Deathworlders step onto the battlefield. 2 years had passed since the first contact between humans and the Galactic Assembly. Now war raged across multiple star systems. The Corthan swarm had launched a massive attack against Assembly worlds. Their warships appeared without warning, overwhelming defenses and landing invasion forces on a dozen planets. On the Assembly flagship Unity, General Ryan Cooper stood before the Emergency Council. Maps and battle reports filled the large screens around them. Each showed the same thing, defeat after defeat for Assembly forces. The Corthans have pushed through our defensive lines in 3 sectors, said High Commander Zilix, his blue skin pale with worry. Our forces retreat everywhere they attack. They've studied our tactics for years, added a Vraxian military leader. They know our strengths and weaknesses. Ryan listened carefully. He had spent months trying to convince the Assembly to let humans join the fight. Today they finally seemed ready to listen. You've seen our reports on the Corthan forces, Ryan said. They've never faced humans in large-scale combat. They don't know what we can do. The alien leaders exchanged glances. Many still found humans unsettling. Their physical capabilities, their endurance, their approach to warfare, all seemed primitive yet frighteningly effective. What do you propose, General Cooper? Asked Zilix. Let us deploy the 1st Earth Expeditionary Force, Colonel. Olivia Bennett commands 10,000 troops ready to move immediately. A murmur ran through the council chamber. 10,000 soldiers seemed like a small force compared to the millions of troops the Assembly and Corthans each fielded. What difference would such a small force make? Asked a Pelian representative. Ryan smiled slightly. Quality over quantity. Our soldiers are all volunteers from Earth, all Deathworlders. The word hung in the air. Over the past 2 years, stories had spread throughout the Assembly about human physical abilities. The battle arena on Vrax Prime, The diplomatic compound on Nex 7. Small examples of what humans could do. Very well, Zilix said finally. We approve the deployment of human forces. 3 days later, Colonel Olivia Bennett stood on the bridge of the Earth transport ship Intrepid. Around her, 9 other transports carried the rest of the human expeditionary force. Their target, the jungle moon of Terrax, a key strategic position now under Corthan control. All units report ready, Colonel, said her executive officer, Major Alan Kelly. Olivia nodded. Begin landing operations. Unlike the Assembly's typical approach of establishing a defensive perimeter first, the human forces deployed in small teams across a wide area. Assembly commanders watching from orbit seemed confused by what they saw as an unnecessarily risky strategy. Colonel Bennett, came Zilix's voice over the communication system. Why spread your forces so thin? The Corthans outnumber you greatly. We're not here to fight fair, Olivia replied calmly. We're here to win. On the surface of Terrax, Sergeant Frank Morris led his squad through dense jungle. The heat and humidity were intense, but no worse than summers in Georgia back on Earth. His team moved quietly, using the thick vegetation for cover. Contact, 200 meters north, whispered Corporal Lisa Graham, the team's scout. Frank signaled for the squad to spread out. Through his binoculars, he saw a Corthan patrol, 6 heavily armed soldiers with their rock-like skin and powerful builds. Remember the briefing, Frank told his team. Their armor is strong, but they have weak points at the joints. They're not used to fighting in this terrain. We are. The squad moved into position. All across the moon, similar scenes played out, as human teams located and engaged Corthan forces. But instead of direct confrontation, the humans used guerrilla tactics. They struck quickly, then disappeared back into the jungle before the Corthans could bring their superior numbers to bear. In the Corthan command center, confusion spread as reports came in from all sectors. Another outpost has gone silent, reported a Corthan officer. That's the 5th one in 2 hours. The Corthan commander pounded his fist on the table. These new assembly troops move like ghosts. How are they navigating the jungle so easily? What the Corthans didn't understand was that humans had evolved as hunters long before they built civilization. The ability to move quietly through difficult terrain, to track prey for days, to endure harsh conditions. These were deep in human instincts. As night fell on Terrax, the difference became even more apparent. While Corthan and most assembly species had poor night vision, humans adapted quickly to the darkness. The Corthan forces, used to fighting enemies who needed light, found themselves under attack from shadows. On the 2nd day, Frank's squad joined with 3 others to target a major Corthan base. The alien soldiers had set up powerful defensive positions, expecting a frontal assault. Instead, the humans climbed the massive jungle trees and attacked from above, a direction the Corthans never expected. When Corthan reinforcements arrived, they found only empty jungle and dead comrades. In orbit, the assembly commanders watched in amazement. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered, one Vraxian officer commented. Look at how they use the terrain, how they keep moving. And their physical endurance, added another. They've been fighting continuously for 30 hours with minimal rest. By the 3rd day, word had spread among Corthan forces. Beware the new enemy from Earth. Some Corthan units began to retreat when they received reports of humans in their area. On the 5th day, Colonel Bennett's forces struck the main Corthan headquarters. Instead of a massive assault, they infiltrated through underground water systems, moving through narrow tunnels that would have claustrophobic for most species. The Corthan commander was shocked when humans emerged inside his supposedly secure bunker. What kind of creatures are you? He demanded as he was taken prisoner. Just humans, Olivia replied simply. From Earth. Within 8 days, Terrax was secure. The assembly fleet moved in to find the moon largely cleared of Corthan forces. The aliens surveyed the battlefield with a mixture of awe and unease. 713 Corthan casualties, reported Major Kelly. Our losses, 29. Olivia nodded solemnly. Each human life was precious, but the ratio was better than anyone had expected. When she returned to the Unity for debriefing, Olivia found the assembly leadership's attitude had changed. They looked at her with new respect, but also with something else, like a wariness that hadn't been there before. Your tactics were unconventional, Zillick said, but effective. Humans fight differently, Olivia explained. We use the environment, we adapt, we persist. These are survival traits from our world. News of the victory spread quickly through assembly channels. So did stories of how the humans fought. Other assembly species began to request human forces for their defense. But among veteran Vraxian warriors, a new practice emerged. When they learned humans would be deployed to a battlefield, many requested reassignment. I won't fight alongside Deathworlders again, one Vraxian captain told his commander. It's not that I fear them as enemies. I fear what they consider normal warfare. As the war continued, the legend of human soldiers grew. Assembly troops called them the Jungle Ghosts after the Terax campaign. Korthan forces began to include special warnings in their battle plans. If humans are detected, maintain distance and call for heavy support. On a dozen worlds, the pattern repeated. Where assembly forces had struggled, human expeditionary teams turned the tide. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through the unique combination of intelligence and physical capabilities that made humans natural warriors. The galaxy was learning a simple truth. When Deathworlders set foot on the battlefield, the rules of war changed forever. 5 years had passed since humans first met the Galactic Assembly. Much had changed in that time. The Korthan War ended with a peace treaty. Humans were now a common sight across assembly space. They served as soldiers, traders, diplomats, and teachers. Some alien species welcomed them eagerly, while others kept a respectful distance. Captain Nicole Rodriguez walked through the corridors of the peacekeeping vessel Horizon. Unlike most assembly ships, the Horizon had a mixed crew, humans working alongside aliens from 7 different species. Nicole commanded this special unit, tasked with responding to emergencies throughout assembly space. Captain, message from Assembly Command, said Lieutenant Ben Parker, her communications officer. Priority 1. Nicole hurried to the bridge. Her second-in-command, a Pelian named Thrix, looked up from the main console. What's happening? Nicole asked. Distress call from Outpost 47, Thrix replied. Colony is under attack by unknown forces. Show me. The screen displayed a small farming colony on the edge of explored space. Established 2 years ago, it had around 5,000 settlers from various assembly species. The attackers came without warning, Thrix continued. They've never been seen before in assembly territory. Any other ships responding? Nicole asked. We're the closest. Nearest assembly battleship is 3 days away. Nicole studied the tactical display. How long until we reach the colony? 4 hours at maximum speed. Alert all crew, combat stations. I want everyone ready when we arrive. As the Horizon raced toward the colony, Nicole briefed her team. Around the table sat her senior officers. 3 humans, 2 Pelians, a Vraxian named Krell, and a Zenth elder named Vix. Initial scans show 5 enemy ships, Nicole explained. Size and configuration unknown. They've landed ground forces at the colony. What do we know about these attackers? Asked Lieutenant Emma Hall, weapons officer. Nothing yet. This appears to be first contact with a new species. Krell, the Vraxian security chief, shifted uncomfortably. They attacked without provocation, without communication. Which means they're either desperate or aggressive, Nicole said. Either way, we need to be prepared. They spent the remaining hours planning. Nicole noticed how the alien crew members naturally deferred to the humans on combat tactics. 5 years of serving alongside Deathworlders had taught them to respect human expertise in warfare. When the Horizon reached Outpost 47, they found 2 enemy ships in orbit. The sleek vessels fired immediately. Evasive maneuvers, Nicole ordered as the bridge rocked from impacts. Return fire, target their weapons systems. Emma's hands flew over the weapons console. The Horizon's lasers struck one enemy ship precisely where its gun ports were located. Their ships have strong frontal shields but weak rear protection. Emma reported, exploiting the weakness now. Nicole watched with pride as her mixed crew worked together. Ben coordinated communications. Thrix handled navigation with incredible precision. Krell monitored security feeds from the colony below. "Captain, I have visual on the ground forces," Krell announced. "Putting it on screen now." The main display showed alien soldiers moving through the colony streets. They were tall, with 6 limbs and metallic-looking exoskeletons. They carried advanced weapons and moved with mechanical precision. "They're targeting civilians," Krell growled. "No mercy." Nicole made her decision. "Prepare landing teams. We're going down there." 20 minutes later, Nicole led 30 crew members toward the surface in 3 shuttles. Among them were 12 humans, including Sergeant Gary Wilson and Corporal Maria Diaz from her security team. "These aliens have technological advantages," Nicole told her team. "But we don't know if they've ever encountered humans before." "They're about to get an education," Gary said quietly. The shuttles landed on the outskirts of the colony. Nicole divided her forces into 3 teams, each with a mix of humans and aliens. Her strategy was simple: locate survivors, protect them, and push back the invaders. As they moved into the colony, they encountered the first group of enemy soldiers. The aliens fired immediately, their weapons sending out pulses of energy that melted through cover. "Spread out," Nicole ordered. "Use their formation against them." What followed demonstrated why veteran alien warriors had learned to respect humans in battle. Nicole's team moved with a speed and coordination that confused the invaders. While the aliens maintained tight, orderly formations, the humans flowed like water around obstacles, appearing where least expected. Maria Diaz showed particular skill, using the colony's architecture to move above and behind enemy positions. Where alien soldiers expected frontal assaults, she struck from angles they never anticipated. Gary Wilson demonstrated the raw physical power humans possessed. When an enemy soldier cornered 2 Pelian colonists, Gary charged directly at it. The alien fired, grazing Gary's shoulder. But to its apparent surprise, the human didn't fall. Instead, Gary crashed into the alien with his full weight, sending them both to the ground. The alien's technological advantages meant nothing in close combat against a human's natural strength. Nicole coordinated the overall response, using her understanding of both human and alien capabilities to maximum effect. When Krell's team became pinned down by enemy fire, she directed Vix, the Zenth Elder, to use his species' natural ability to project calming pheromones to help wounded colonists stay quiet and hidden. The invaders had clearly studied assembly species and their typical tactics, but they had no knowledge of humans. Their formations and strategies, effective against most assembly forces, proved useless against Deathworlders who evolved to hunt, adapt, and survive. 3 hours into the battle, the tide turned. The enemy forces began to retreat toward their landing ships. Nicole's team pressed the advantage, forcing them to abandon equipment and wounded. "Captain, the enemy ships in orbit are powering engines," Ben reported through the comm. "They're preparing to leave." "Let them go," Nicole ordered. "Our priority is protecting the colonists." As the enemy ships disappeared into space, Nicole's team secured the colony. Medical personnel treated the wounded. Security teams established a defensive perimeter in case the invaders returned. In the colony's main hall, Nicole debriefed with local leaders and her team. A young Vraxian colonist approached Gary Wilson, staring at his bandaged shoulder. "You were shot, but you kept fighting," the young Vraxian said with wonder. Gary shrugged. "It's what we do." Later, as Nicole walked through the secured colony with Krell, the Vraxian security chief seemed thoughtful. "5 years ago, I would have considered your tactics reckless," Krell admitted. "Now I understand." "Understand what?" Nicole asked. "Why our veterans tell new recruits, if humans arrive on the battlefield, find another place to fight." Krell looked at her with respect. "It is not fear. It is wisdom." Nicole smiled slightly. "We don't seek war, Krell." "No. But you are shaped by it in ways the rest of us are not." Krell gestured to where human crew members were helping repair colony buildings, carrying loads that would strain most alien species. Your people call Earth a death world, yet you speak of it with love. That is what makes humans dangerous and valuable. You turn survival into strength. As the Horizon prepared to depart the next day, with assembly reinforcements now arriving, Nicole received a message from Assembly Command. Reports of the unknown invaders attacking other outlying colonies were coming in. The Assembly was forming a special response force. They are requesting the Horizon and its crew specifically, Thrix told her. They want Deathworlders on the front line. Nicole looked at her mixed crew, aliens and humans working side by side. In 5 short years, humanity had gone from newcomers to essential defenders of the galaxy. Not because of advanced technology or overwhelming numbers, but because of what Earth had made them. Adaptable, resilient, and unwilling to surrender. The legend would only grow stronger from here. Throughout assembly space, the warning spread. Among those who would threaten the peace, beware the humans, the Deathworlders. Because when they set foot on the battlefield, veteran warriors know to step aside.